Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Exercise Mechanic Podcast. Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by Lauren Neal, who is the Director of Personal Training over at the Adelaide Club. Lauren, how's it going today?
It goes well. Thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Ryan and I are both very excited for today's conversation because, like we were talking about beforehand, the angle of today's conversation is a unique one that we haven't done yet on this platform, nor have we just not seen it anywhere on podcast platforms. So we're really excited for today's conversation. Before we dig into the first question, I just want to start off with a little bit of a disclaimer for today's episode. Like I mentioned to you guys before recording, fortunately for us, they just started doing lots of repairs right above. So you guys may hear the occasional drilling. I'll do the best that I can to mute myself, but I apologize for folks who are listening to this in the car. If you hear drilling, don't panic, stay on the road. The drilling will subside eventually. Now that we covered that, let's dig into the meat of today. Ryan and I would love to get to know you, Lauren, to a greater degree, and not only your personal training journey, but like what led you to management, and then also like the third part of that, which is like why the Adelaide Club. What sets the Adelaide Club apart from other fitness gyms?
Yeah, all great questions. All great questions. I guess, should I just start my personal journey, my personal story in a nutshell, I guess?
Let it rip.
I would classify myself as like a recovering cardio bunny. So I sort of got into fitness with all the people that thought, oh, I want to get a really good sweat. And so I started at a young age running, a little bit of track, a little bit of cross country with school, and loved it. You know, could run forever, had, no bounds of how many kilometers I would go. And, it was great. From there, I got into cycling, and my mom would probably say that she was the one who would get sort of the thank you for me getting into fitness, because then that allowed me to get a little more into the coaching side of things. So I started taking spin classes back in the day, and I loved them. And they were offering this certification, and my mom said, "Why don't you do it?" And I think it was at the end of school. You have like $5 in your bank account, and my mom was like, "Do it, do it." So I ended up doing it on a weekend, and from there, I would say really that's where my journey started, because I started coaching, I started teaching. There's a lot that goes into a class. And then from there, started getting into more of the strength training side of things, which we all know is super important. I still, at that point, was more into the group fitness side of things. So taught boot camps, things like that. And then started working at McMaster University, actually, in their fitness department and running their group fitness program. So that's sort of what sort of pushed me into, I guess, the management side of things. And so from there, I sort of moved a little bit away from the cardio and definitely focusing more on strength. But still do teach classes now and again, but definitely do more personal training than I did back then. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell of sort of where I started, and sort of, I guess it was that cycling certification that really pushed me into more of a coaching, a place of coaching, I guess.
Cool. And then, so what was it? So going from this place of delivering fitness classes into management, was it just kind of a natural progression for you, or was it an intentional one of like, I want to start teaching the folks that deliver the product?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I was teaching, I had, I guess, the personality for it. People seem to be drawn towards me, and I felt like I could deliver a really good class. And maybe where we were lacking when I was sort of at the helm was people also delivering the same types of experiences. And so that's sort of where I was like, maybe this is an opportunity for me, seeing that I'm seeing such great results from people. People are coming back. That's great. I want to be able to teach this to others. Because it is such a powerful thing when you can, whether it's a session or a class, people walk out, they feel like amazing. Like that's what we want. And I thought maybe I can teach people sort of how to structure a class and how to teach and coach and get people coming back, repeat customers.
Very cool. So kind of like teaching other fitness professionals in a group fitness context, kind of like how to duplicate what you did.
Exactly. So definitely on the group fitness side of things first. And so that's how I sort of got into the group fitness manager at McMaster. We would have sort of staff, learning days, workshops, things like that, so that people could deliver the same type of experience that would lead them to come back, for sure. That would, I would say, would be where I saw the opportunity for me to get into that management side of things.
I love it. And then how did you get into the Adelaide Club? And then also, but I'm really curious to hear your answer on this question, which is what sets the Adelaide Club apart, in your opinion, from other fitness chains?
Right, that's a good question as well.
We got lots of good questions today,
Lauren.
Lauren. Get ready.
I hope I have good answers. How did I get to the Adelaide Club? I actually had worked at a private club in North York, and one of our members there worked at the Cambridge Club. And so he and I got to know each other really well, and they said, "Oh, we have this opening also on the group fitness side of things. I was doing training a little bit, but group fitness side of things first." And it was very different from where I'd worked at the private club. It was a little more family. It wasn't as, let's say, on trend. Like, it was a little bit older. People were really resistant to change there. So this was a really good opportunity for me to get into a larger scale position. So I think when I first came on board, there were probably 150 classes a week. So it was much larger scale. And so that's how it was basically who you know, right? Is important, networking and things like that. So that's how I got into the Adelaide Club.
Did you say 150 a week?
Oh yeah, big, huge.
That's mega.
Yeah, massive. Like, group fitness was like outrageous. Like,
and is this the club that's in downtown Toronto on like the 80th floor of like a?
No, that's our sister club. That's the Toronto Athletic Club. We're underground, actually.
Yes. Okay.
We're underground.
So it's the Adelaide that was delivering that volume.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
So I would say, even with our sister club, like, they only have 2 studios where we would have 4. So that's, yeah, and they were packed. So that's how I got in here through I guess, a coworker now. What has kept me here, I would say, it's going to be about 9 years, which is crazy. Many things. I would say the people here, you tend to find that people stay here for a long time. We have trainers here 25 years, 20 years, 17 years, 11 years. I think the people is definitely number one. We love, we're here a lot, so you get to know your colleagues quite a bit. I think too, because we're independent, there's really less red tape. So if someone has an idea, we're able to really run with it. There is executives and things that have to happen, but it's less corporate. And then I think the community, like, the members here are amazing. Similarly to the staff members, same thing. 25 years, 30 years, they've been here a long time, and so you do get really close to the people. It's almost like you can't leave them. And just, the Adelaide has this reputation of being fun. Like, it's a little more fun than the other clubs. I'm not saying I'm biased that I work here, but it's a little more fun, a little more community. We're a little more laid back. And really, it's allowed me to, train and teach and now do admin. So it's giving me a good mix of everything.
I love that. Great answers. Go ahead, Ryan.
So I actually had 2 questions, related to the actual management of a personal training staff. The first one, you mentioned your Group X background, your training background. I think traditionally we do see managers have like an extensive PT background of sorts. Some, I think, come in with maybe more of a business background, but I think that's more rare. I think within the personal training space, how important do you think it is as a manager to have had that on-floor, hands-on experience? I'll let you answer that one first before I ask my second.
And you know what? I was thinking about this before. I was like, I wonder if they're going to ask me this question. I asked because you do see that, right? At other clubs, a lot of the managers don't actually do any training. I think it's incredibly important. It puts you on the floor. You get to see sort of the flow of what's happening. You get to see your other trainers working. You get to interact with them. I think sometimes people make decisions like at the executive level, and they don't really have an understanding of how things run day to day. So absolutely important for the manager to train, whether it's 2 sessions a week or, I do anywhere from 15 to 19 on a really busy week. Getting you on the floor, you need to meet people too, because you're also selling for your trainers. So the business side of things, you do need sales for sure. But our club is all about building relationships. And so if I have the relationships with the people, it becomes really easy for me to say, hey, you are doing this. It looks, you could use some help with this. We have this amazing trainer for you, da, da, da. So I think I am the one who's sort of setting the example as well for everyone else.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I agree completely.
Do you mind if I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
So there's something that I find so interesting in your answer, which is like the importance of relationships and taking care of like a people-centric model, or person-centric or client-centric model. And for those that don't know, the Adelaide Club is in like a basement, right? Like truly. And like the first time.
It so bad when you say that.
No, but it's true. And like and as much as that's true, the ambiance inside is incredible. Like you don't feel like you're in a basement. So that's important to say. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is that you guys aren't a gym that has, street access where people are walking by and they accidentally will stumble into the Adelaide.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine that the relational and the community piece has likely been such an enormous part of your success, because otherwise, like how would people find you? Of course, there's marketing campaigns and there's all those types of things, but I can only imagine that the relational piece must be absolutely huge for you guys.
Absolutely. I think we get most of our business from referrals. Like you said, you can't really stumble. You have to find us through this tiny little corridor at the back of the First Canadian.
I got lost. The first time I was trying to teach, I tried to arrive at like 2 hours early or whatever, and I arrived 20 minutes early because I was like, where is this place? Where do I park? Like, do I have to wave a wand to get inside? Like, how does this work?
It's like, oh God. So, no, it's absolutely true. Most of our business comes from referrals. And it is about building relationships in multiple, like that's for everyone across the board, especially for the trainer. Key. And sorry, just to go back on what you said, Ryan, it's important for I think, the boss to also be on the floor and training, for sure.
Well, and I think that actually segues great into my next question.
There we go.
Obviously you having been at that club for quite a period of time, and you alluded to the fact that you have trainers that have been there for, in some cases, decades.
Yeah.
And, ET and I have both been a part of personal training teams in the past for extended periods of time. And you see some teams that function incredibly well. And then unfortunately, other times teams will go through this period of turnover and there's quite a bit of dysfunction. I'm curious from your perspective as the one, managing all of these personalities, are there like key personality archetypes that you think lead to like a successful team?
That is a good question. All good questions. I think, and I should also preface this by saying that I started managing just before we reopened. So that would have been managing the PT department rather, September 2021, because we were closed for about 18 months. So we were closed for quite a period of time. The people that typically do well, let's say, I guess, is this in terms of business or in terms of team flow?
I think they're related. So I'll maybe share this as an example. So I was very lucky. I started my personal training career in 2012, and I happened into a situation where we were a relatively small club that smoked club records for basically 2 years straight.
Amazing.
And we had a blend of, maybe a half dozen trainers who were at about maybe the, 10-year mark in their career, who were all very educated, all ran good businesses. And we had kind of this team culture of like pay it forward. So I kind of came in, there was a group of, probably another half dozen of us all at the same time that were young. There was already this established team. And it led to probably several years of a pretty successful club, because there was a lot of mentorship within our club. So that was a model that I saw that worked really well. I've been in situations where that wasn't the case. So that's where I'm curious, the people that are on your team, are there certain dynamics that work really well that lead to, not only team chemistry potentially being good, but then ultimately, the bottom line, obviously you guys being profitable.
Right. Where do I want to start with this? So definitely we have, and I would say coming back from COVID, or maybe I'll start there. Like previous to COVID, we had about 28 trainers, so quite a large team. Coming back from COVID, we started with 9. So yes, so there was it was an opportunity, 9 or 10. There is an opportunity to maybe start fresh, because I do think that at some point, sometimes people do stay a little too long. And they get a little bit, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for them, but it seemed to me like some people were getting maybe just a bit complacent, kind of going through the motions, really just not motivated anymore. They have their client roster. They're not really looking to build, and then you have new people coming in and seeing this, and it doesn't really create a great culture for them. So I think the people that you want on your team, so when I was looking, okay, who do I want on my team? It's definitely, you want some of the seasoned people, because they're going to have the background knowledge, they're going to have the relationships, they're going to have, like you said, that sort of mentorish, vibe to them, where people feel like they can go to them. This client has this. I think you definitely need the salespeople. So, we can get people that are the most amazing trainers in the world, but unfortunately, if they don't have the sales, or whether that's, you call that charisma, whether you call that the ability to build relationships, they're not going to do that well, unfortunately. You do need to have a bit of a personality, or at least fake it, to talk to people, because that's what you're doing all day long. And then the other people I want is the people that want to learn. I think there's people that maybe are a little bit more on the green side, but if they have the ability, like they've got a great personality, let's say, or maybe they're a little more quiet, but they are really curious, then you want those curious people, because you want them to see how the, seasoned vets do some things. So I would say those 3 would be a good place, lead us in a good place. And I think I've done a good job at sort of creating that. Again, I had, started with 9-ish trainers, and now we're up 17. So those are some of the things I would say create a good dynamic, let's say. Curiosity, seasoned, and I can't remember what the other one I said. If you rewind, you'll find it.
Yeah. On this note, really great answer, by the way. And I'd like to maybe pull on this thread a little bit.
Sure.
One curiosity that I had leading up to today is, from your perspective, what might be some blind spots or gaps, blind spots or like education gaps for newer trainers, and then also veteran trainers. Maybe if we were to maybe define a veteran trainer as someone who's at greater than 5 years, let's say. So, because in my experience, it seems like the gaps are different. And it seems like there's some perhaps unique considerations and perhaps trends. I'm curious if you've noticed any for both new and seasoned trainers alike.
Sure. So I think that the new people, one of the things, I guess in COVID too, right? Because everyone kind of had to do what they had to do. So you had people working in multiple different spots and things like that. So I would say with the new people, they're coming in, and it's not like previous where they're like, okay, I can devote full-time hours to, yes, I'll be there from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'll be working to build my business. Now I teach this day at this place and that day at that place, and I can do this and that and that. And that's well and good, because I understand that people have to earn a living and whatnot. Where the challenge comes in is building your business. We all know if you're at the club more, you're creating those relationships, whether people are going to buy training that day or 6 months from now, if you're building those relationships, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that guy was nice to me. That person said hello to me. Good morning. That person told me to squat with some, elevated, feet or heels. And that is sort of a drawback, I think, of some of the newer people, in that they're not able to devote the time, just given their multiple places. And I think they would build their business faster if they were dedicated to one, whether that's available to them. But I think that's where I see a little bit of a gap with the new people. Additionally, some of them don't have maybe as strong as a sales background. So I sort of touched on this before, whether that you call that building relationships, whether you call that charisma, whether that's just confidence and going up to someone and saying, hey, have you thought about doing this with your lunch or whatever? Maybe that is a little bit, and it's just like they're newer to the game, right? So it's just sort of coaching them, mentoring them. People want to be helped. So just having that confidence to go do that. I think maybe that's some of the things that I've seen. And I guess in terms of a programming standpoint, it's just they're more green. So they haven't had the opportunity to program for as many people as the vets have, let's say. And so for the vets, it can become, okay, you have this. Okay, we're going to do this. Let's check. You kind of go down your checklist. Okay, you can probably do a program relatively quickly. If it's very basic, they might need maybe a little longer time creating the programs, and that just comes with experience.
Right. And then what would you say would be some of the blind spots for more veteran trainers or ways in which they get stuck?
What should I say here? I think sometimes people can get a little set in their ways. I think in terms of, let's say, even if we talk about some of the same things that I just touched on with the new people, in terms of, let's even programming, right? It can become a little, well, I'll check. We're going to do this basic program. Maybe we're not going to dig a little deeper, like this is good enough. I think, it can get a little bit like, oh, day in, day out, this person. It can get a little bit like Groundhog Day. Oh, I have this person Tuesday, Wednesday, this stuff. So maybe they get a little Groundhog Day-ish. And then I don't think any of the trainers here, but a lot of times people think they know everything. And I think that's a red flag for me in terms of those are some of the questions I would ask in the hiring, or we don't know everything. And if we do think we know everything, that's an issue for sure. We want to continue to expand our knowledge and find new courses like yours, or, expanding our knowledge. That's why, we kind of got into this. We're all like little nerds, like trying to figure things out. So I think they can get a little set in their ways. They're for sales, like maybe they don't feel like they need to work as hard, just given that maybe they've been at a club or a fitness facility for so long. But I still think we should always be in business building mode. You never know when someone's going to move, get pregnant, get injured. I always think if my one client leaves, like I have a 3-time-a-weeker, I'm like, if he leaves, I have to make sure that I can fill those slots. So you always have to have sort of I call them a floater roster, people you've reached out to, people maybe you've trained every now and again. Just keep those relationships going in case, we don't want to be reactive. We definitely want to be proactive. So I would say those would maybe be some of the gaps, I would say, for experience.
I love that. Ryan, do you have a follow-up question on that?
More of a comment that I think something you said makes a ton of sense. Because I'm still relatively closely connected with the personal training world, especially here in Ottawa. And as you had kind of mentioned, I think a lot of trainers, like 10 years plus, they've had the same clients for 7 or 8 years. There is this level of complacency that starts to set in. And I think what can be very common when those are trainers that aren't necessarily seeking out new challenges is the answers that they've had are like good enough. And then because there's no real impetus for them to change, they just don't seek out further education. They kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like they clock in, clock out. And that's not necessarily a criticism of them, but I think you've probably seen this where I imagine some of the, let's call them star trainers that you've come along, put themselves in positions where they face new challenges. I actually think of, there's a gentleman that we both know that was on this podcast several months ago, Chris Fudge, who's been like, how long has he been a trainer? 17 years or something, maybe longer.
Yeah. He started at Good Life a little bit after me, but he was training before. So probably close to 17. Yeah.
And he's somebody where in spite of that, and he's broken every Good Life record that exists, is constantly involved in new areas within the fitness space.
Right.
So for a guy who probably knows as much as any corporate trainer that's out there, is seeking new challenges and then therefore new solutions to the problems that he's faced with. So the reason why I kind of bring that up is I think it is something interesting to note. If you are a trainer who maybe feels a little bit bored, frankly, I think knowing that there are opportunities out there to push yourself and then therefore give yourself an opportunity to learn some things as well.
Absolutely. And I just to touch on that too, I think with our own training too, right? We tend to kind of stay, or at least I do, tend to stay in our same kind of like, oh, okay, I'm going to do program A today, program B today. And it's like, why don't we just try something new or push ourselves a little bit or change our rep scheme? Like, gosh, don't make me do 10 reps. Do not make me do over 5 reps. That's what I would say to my trainer. But it's like, why don't we just change it a little bit and push ourselves and sort of see what that feels like.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting. When you guys were chatting, it reminded me of a quote I heard a while back, which was that if you're bored, it's because your eyes are closed. Which kind of very much ties into, like, you mentioned the word curiosity on a few occasions earlier when you were speaking about like successful, like new trainers who are successful, and veteran trainers that are successful. And I very much relate to that. I find curiosity is such a central theme, not only for like long-term professional progression, but also even when it comes to like empathy. If we think of as a trainer, fundamentally, it's a cliche for a reason, but the first word of personal training is personal. Like it is a person, client, human-centric profession. And so therefore, in many ways, our ability to help someone is going to at least be in somewhat correlated to our ability to connect and understand them, what their challenges are, so we can then find relevant solutions to their problems. So I really love that you highlighted the element of curiosity, because I totally agree. I also love you mentioned something that I've never heard before and that I wrote down. And just the notion of a floater roster. Which I thought was really great. And I'd love to circle back to that in a moment. But before we do, when you were talking about new trainers, you had mentioned that sometimes trainers will struggle when it comes to confidence and how that might translate to things like their ability to sell. And not long ago, we polled the trainers in our network, and of the many themes that came up, there was, generally speaking, there was confidence and things like imposter syndrome and those types of things. And then also how that translates also to business building. So very, 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 I would say, parallel with what you shared in terms of what, new trainers struggle with. And so I'm curious, from your perspective as a manager, for all of those that are listening to this that struggle with imposter syndrome or struggle with confidence when it comes to selling, how do you specifically help your trainers overcome that hurdle or continue to overcome those hurdles?
Right. And I think it's definitely true. I think even for seasoned vets, I think if you're not constantly kind of pushing yourself to do it, I think what they say is like what you avoid or what you resist persists. So if you are finding some sort of like anxiousness or like whatever you're feeling, I'm not feeling confident, I'm feeling like I don't want to go talk to that person, I'm just going to kind of go this way and like maybe we'll chat at some point. I think like you said, it's all about pushing ourselves a little bit. I think even if you just go and say good morning, like start with a good morning. So I tell my trainers, we're not a hard sell here. Again, like you said, it's coming back, just building relationships. So whether it's just a good morning, that's how you're going to start to facilitate a relationship. They may or may not lead to training, but it's like a nice thing to do anyways, like just to like chat with people, or like, how's your workout go today? You're in an elevator with someone. I think start with small things that don't necessarily need to lead to a sale, because they're kind of feeling like, oh, I have to like tell this person and then we have to book a session and all this stuff. It's like, no, like you literally just have to start to get to know this person. Like, what's their name? Can you introduce yourself? I'm one of the trainers here. Like, let's start small. And then from there, you'll build. So I have what I call huddles with my team, every other week or every 3 weeks with the building trainers typically. And then if the veteran trainers do need assistance, I open that up to them. But I'll say, what were the challenges this week? Did you meet any people? It's very simple. It doesn't have to be super complicated. I know there's some clubs out there that, and I'm not going to name names or anything, but they do really push like sales. If you need to talk to this person, you need to book this session, da, 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 da. And it doesn't become a great environment for the trainer too, because it also feels a little like put on almost. And so we want the interactions to be really genuine. And so I think just being yourself, just people love to talk about themselves. So just like ask them about themselves, say good morning. That's where it starts. It doesn't have to be super complicated. And then from there, that's when you're going to start to build maybe into more of that. Okay, this person is a potential lead. They could use help with this. And I think we have to remember that we are really helping people at the end of the day. So we are salespeople, yes, but it's very rewarding sales and work. It's not, we're not selling them a vacuum. We're selling them, their health and longevity and not to be in the hospital and to continue to live their life 20 years from now and do all the things they love. So I think that is a good thing to remember, that this is all for the help of that person. And like, don't you want to help people? That's why a lot of us got into this industry in the first place.
I love that. I love that. Really taking the pressure off of the sale and reminding them of like, why did you get into this in the first place? I don't know about you, Ryan, when Lauren was talking, I found that very refreshing, because we both know like many different gym, like individual gyms and gym chains, that when you speak to their trainers, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes their trainers will feel very pressured to just get a sale up on the board, and sometimes it seems like the sale matters more than the person, which runs contrary to a trainer's motivation. Like I don't know one trainer that would say, I am here to sell just like a service. It's like, no, like I'm here to help people, and they understand that they need to sell the service to be able to help them. And at the risk of monologuing, but it just reminds me that sales are a lag metric. Sale isn't something that you force, but it's a lag metric. The lead metric on the sale is actually taking care of people, strong relationships, and actually trust. Right? Because if the client doesn't trust you, there's no way they're going to want to, sign on for the long term, so to speak, with you to pursue their goals. So I love that you touched on all those things. It was really great.
Yeah, great.
So I wanted to maybe shift gears a hair here. So, you had mentioned the COVID lockdowns, and obviously that changed the dynamic for everybody pretty significantly.
Yes.
And, you had said you'd had trainers who were, they were teaching classes in different locations and et cetera. Obviously, one of the things that I think boomed during the sort of lockdown era, so to speak, is this like presence of online coaching just being like a way more prominent part of our industry. And I think to a degree, it's like Pandora's box. Now that it's open, you can't really close it.
Yeah.
So I don't know necessarily what the Adelaide Club stance was this. I know ET and I earlier in our careers, it was very black and white. You essentially were a PT at the location that you worked at, and that was it. I'm curious what your perspectives are, because I've seen a little bit of a shift over the years. I think people realizing that it's not going anywhere. I'm curious what your perspective is on, managing trainers who maybe they do have a side hustle or an online coaching business. Like, what role does that play necessarily in the trainers' lives? How do you communicate around that with them? I just really would love to see what your insights are in that area.
Yeah, that was a big byproduct of COVID. I mean, people needed to pay their rent. And so if they offered that as a solution, we had that through the club as well. Some people did better with it. Again, like some people didn't really fight on it. Or I think also too, we didn't know when we were going to reopen. So I think some people were kind of just waiting. I definitely was not doing that. I was like, we need to keep going. We need to keep pushing. We need to keep these relationships going. Again, coming back to kind of that theme. I would say slowly less and less we're doing virtual, because more and more people are coming back to the club. However, there are still people that are doing it. We offer this room that I'm in for people to do their virtuals, and also up in our staff room. It's a challenge, right? Because, and it sort of speaks to a little bit of like the people doing other things. It's, do you take the trainer who's awesome, who's got, super charismatic, people like him, he's nice, or she, I should say, she or he, great trainer, but they're only available 3 days a week? Or do you wait for the full-time trainer who maybe is a little less seasoned? these are the things that you have to kind of think about. And for me, if it's the right person, I'm thinking, you know what, we'll go with this 3 times a week. We're gonna go with it, because I think at the end of the day, it does come down to the people that work here, because that is going to set the tone for everything else. I think we've all can probably attest to having maybe someone who shouldn't be here, and it really does mess with the vibe of the place. I think that's for the gym or the manager to decide, but I think good people are hard to find. And so if you can have someone that's willing to give you 3 days a week, and they're willing to work with their clients, and their clients like them, and sure, maybe the challenge with that is if, you know, the client is sick or the trainer is sick and they can't reschedule, that's just sort of like an unfortunate part of it. I don't know if that answered your question, but it certainly is a challenge. It certainly is a challenge, but I think if the person is a great trainer and they're willing to give you a set amount of time, maybe more than 2 days, I would go for it.
And sorry, to perhaps just like really nail this, because I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'd love to just double, triple, quadruple click on this. How would you define who the quote unquote right person is? Because you said like if they're the right person, then we would entertain perhaps, you know, something more part-time, or if they're a great trainer. Like, what are some of those character traits that you look for?
I think I typically, with like an interview process, I typically meet with them, just have a coffee. It's more of a vibes check. For me, I'm a very big vibes person. So I'm like, okay, they can have a conversation with me. They are, you know, eye contact. Are they making eye contact with me? What is their body language like? There's these small little things. I think hopefully a lot of us as managers can pick up, I don't know, up on those things. But if they're very standoffish, you know, you have to ask them the right questions of, you know, some of the things we discussed, like, why did you get into the industry? Are you still motivated? You know, with COVID lockdown, there's a lot of trainers that did leave the industry. Like, what has kept you here? I think asking those questions. I think when we're doing a tour, like, are they interacting with people? Are they saying hello even on the tour? Like, some of these things I sort of note when they're meeting other management teams. Are they like shaking their hand? Are they kind of sitting back? That would be my first sort of step. Are they like, do they have that bubbly sort of personality? Do I want to train with them? That's another question. I sort of like, would I want to spend time with this person? Because you sort of touched on, if they don't have the trust, or they don't, no one's going to want to spend time with this person if they're just kind of flat. And then from there, obviously we have like a practical to see what their skills are like, but the vibe, whether that's personality, I think personality, charisma, you know, and answering the questions of like, are you still motivated to be in the industry? I think those are a few things to consider for sure.
I love it. I didn't mean to cut you off earlier, Ryan. I think you had a follow-up.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up, you know, on one end, you know, we talked about coming out of post-COVID and all of those changes. I feel like there's memes around this where it's like millennial generation has faced 5 once in a lifetime experiences,
5 once in a lifetime recessions or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Obviously, I think, you know, the other thing that has been going on, I know ET wanted to touch base on some of the Adelaide Club's perspectives on this as well, but obviously the tariff situation is a thing that, you know, we are experiencing up here. And I have seen trainers' businesses be affected by this, especially those that, you know, maybe they have a client that owns a company that has to import parts, whatever it happens to be. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, you know, what kinds of conversations are you maybe having with your trainers? Like, have you guys noticed an effect from like that situation as well?
You know, we definitely have had some conversations about it. I think it's more in terms of, you know, people, like, things are like everything is going up. You know, groceries are going up. You know, the cost of cream is now $10. It's insane. And so we need to continue to show our value, right? I think that's one of the biggest thing that I would say. If people continue to find value in what we're offering, they're more likely to pay for it. We haven't seen it too much, to be honest, yet. I think there's still the other shoe to drop. They're still figuring things out, but I think it's just continuing to show our value. What's different maybe about our clubs too than others is that we don't have really packages. So we don't sell like 24 packages, 36 packages. We're training twice a week until infinity. And so that sort of continues to push the trainers to really they're on their P's and Q's, because at any point they can say, I'm out of here. And I don't know if that answers the question, but I think it comes back to, continue to show value, continue to show results as well. So, our demographic really likes metrics. So whether that's you're stronger at this lift than you were 6 months ago, whether that is you've lost weight or you've put on muscle, like getting them on the Embody, reminding them of why they're there, asking them if their goals have changed as well. Oftentimes I think maybe that's also a blind spot of, we should have gone back as experienced trainers, is like goals do change over time. So what are the goals? Because goals will typically keep people a little more accountable. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's where we'll start, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, it's something that we keep coming back to, in this conversation and in many of the episodes that we've recorded with, other professionals. A common theme, it's probably going to sound boring at this point, but it always comes back to service. And obviously, as you alluded to, and anybody who's living in North America right now, yeah, the cost of a lot of things is going up, and that puts a bit of a squeeze on people. And there's a reason why there are still trainers, coaches, et cetera, running successful businesses.
Yeah.
Like the common thread amongst those trainers and coaches is they service the shit out of their clients.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
So in the same way, like there is the way that you provide value to something in this industry is, as you have mentioned, the relationship building, the amount of care that you give to those people, so on and so forth. So if you double down on that, to me, I think that's your best opportunity to insulate yourself from whatever chaos might be ensuing that might affect your business.
100%. And I know we might touch on this a little bit later, but also looking at where your business can evolve to, whether that's you're getting another certification so you can offer them another, service, or, it's important to keep those clients. And so what can we do to keep them? Then that's going to come from service for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Just to kind of add to this, it reminds me of a quote that or a moment I had with my dad when I was younger, because I just had no idea what I wanted to do with my career. And he said, like, don't worry about it. He said, pursue your interests because folks will always pay for the best. And so for me, it's kind of helped streamline things where it's like, when in doubt, just triple down on becoming excellent. And sometimes that's, doing an audit in your own in your own service. Sometimes it's expanding your repertoire and taking another course on a completely different topic that is a complete blind spot and you're not interested, but your clients need it. And so, you push yourself, but regardless, people will always pay for the best. And that definitely is, and I very much, I think we would agree on this, that like just tripling down on becoming the best that you can, delivering the best service possible is one of the best ways to quote unquote bulletproof your business, because recession or not, if you have a shitty business, like good luck, right? So like the first of the foundation is excellence.
100%. And just to touch on this too, I think for newer trainers versus, I guess, my veteran, I guess I would be maybe a veteran at this point, I guess. It's really just booking, for us, it's booking that next session. So most of my clients were the same time every week. And I think sometimes people are like, oh, let me get back to you. Let me look at my schedule. It's like, nope, send an invite. If they need to change it, they will. But if it's in their calendar, they're more likely to come. So I try to tell people, get people at the same time each week. It will make it so much easier for you. It will make it so much easier for them. And I think then they'll get on it's all about habits, right? Consistency, they'll stay consistent. So just wanted to touch on that as well.
I love it. And so Ryan tabled this topic of the tariffs and how that has and may kind of continue to affect the fitness industry, but specifically personal trainers. One of my curiosities for today was, from your perspective, have you noticed there being any changes to the role of a fitness professional that have happened maybe within the last 5 years? And then perhaps what I'm most interested in, is just in what ways or in which ways do you think that the personal training role may change or evolve over the course of the next 5-10 years?
A great question. I think we're always evolving. I think for those who haven't maybe experienced personal training more than just like maybe they went for a couple sessions or whatever, I don't think they really truly understand how, and I don't want to say it because I'm like amazing a trainer can be for someone, because it comes down to, it's not just about that hour, 2 hours, 3 hours that you see that person in the week, right? It really does set them up for success. And so I think we've seen a little bit of a shift in terms of, people they're confidants, they're friends, it's a more layered relationship than just what happens in that hour at the gym. Where I think it maybe could go is for trainers to maybe shift their mindset a little bit, because oftentimes we'll have clients that will not do the homework. They will not do the things, or, we need to bump this up to 2 times a week, and they're not going to do it for whatever reason. And so I think it's shifting their mindset and maybe doing a little more deep diving on like behavior change, and understanding motivation. And that's going to help you, and maybe like more like long-term client development. What does that look like? Like what do you think that this client would need to stay with you? Because it might be different for everyone. But I think just a bit of a shift in that, because I've worked with trainers too, like my building trainers, who are like a bit frustrated with their clients because they're not doing the homework and they're not doing, and then you come and they've got the shoulder thing. And so you have to spend, you have this program, we're going to do it. It's like, oh, okay, we got to work a little bit on the shoulder, which is fine. But then you're not moving the needle as forward, and you sort of get stuck in this little bit of a pattern. And so it's really understanding behavior a little bit more. And whether that's enrolling in a course, whether there's a lot out there that you can read, it's lots of books and things like that. I think that's where maybe the training could go. And I think the more that happens, everything else just levels up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a central thing. You could have the best program in the world, but if you can't move people to action, the best program on paper becomes just completely and utterly useless,
Yeah. And I think I experience it. I'm sure we do. There's all these things that we procrastinate for whatever reason. And I always wonder, what is that? Like, why do I not just open that? Why do I not do that thing? Like, what is that? And I don't know what it is. I think it's different for everyone, but I'm constantly wondering, like, why didn't that client do that? It seemed simple to me, but it wasn't for them. So you sort of got to kind of like continue to pull those layers down.
Love it. I know that we have some rapid fire questions ready for you that we're going to get to in a moment.
All right.
In a moment. There's going to be a 3-stage closing process. I have some questions that we didn't get to yet, specifically about fitness education.
Sure.
Of course, as an education provider, this is definitely a curiosity that we have, and I would love to get your take on this. And then Ryan will lead us into the rapid fire, and then I've got the final nail in the coffin at the end.
All
Sorry,
right.
Ryan, I'm stealing your thunder. So before we get into rapid fire, my question has to do once again with fitness education. What would you like to see more of in the fitness education space to help personal trainers become more effective? So that's kind of like the first part of this question. And then perhaps associated to this is that if you or the Adelaide Club had like an unlimited budget, what would be the program that you would love to bring to your staff that would really take the service that the Adelaide Club offers to the next level? No pressure.
No pressure. I know that's a tough question. Okay, so the first question is, what do I want to see more of in fitness education?
Yeah.
I don't know if this would be possible, but I think, you go through the training process, you go through university, maybe you study KIN, maybe you study at, one of the colleges, the fitness and health promotion programs. It's really just a knowledge base. There's no real application process to it. And so I think maybe George Brown, but I think they closed their program actually. I would love to see a bit more of hands-on, experience of people working with clients, because Sure. Again, like you said, you can have the best program in the world, but it's like you don't know how to deliver that program. That is a little bit of a gap. And you get that confidence, you get that flow, you get that understanding by actually working with people. And so I think whether that's workshops where you can go and you can actually try equipment, you can try different things, you can, work with one, have someone do a move, cue them and things like that. I think that is where people could benefit, because you can't just read a book and then be like, oh, I can, show someone how to squat. It's like, there's going to be a lot of variables there. Like you need to see multiple people because it's going to look different on everyone and things like that. So I think more the workshop way, because it's a little more intimate. You can ask questions, you're getting different perspectives rather than just like reading a book. And some of the certifications too are really quick, and that's all well and good, but you still need that application, the opportunity to apply it to a person.
Love it. Great answer.
I don't know if that's possible though, because like it's challenging. I mean, you know what I would really love to see too, and this is like pie in the sky, but like, it can't happen, but like, how like RMTs and like osteos, they're all registered, and then like people can get benefits from it, and like I would love to see that. I don't think it's possible, just given it's a bit of the Wild West right now, but that would be amazing, because then you'd really have to be accountable, and maybe more people would do it because it would be covered and things like that, and then people would be healthier, and then I think there's a long-term sort of domino effect that would be positive for the society.
I don't want to speak for you, Ryan, but I'm fairly certain that Ryan and I feel exactly the same way.
Like, why is that not a thing? Like, I guess it's just there's not enough bodies and like governing body, or I don't know.
Yeah. It would be a problem that would be worth solving, though. I think I agree with you.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, if you've never experienced personal training, and I don't think people realize how and I don't say this lightly, like we're keeping people out of hospitals, like just getting people a little bit stronger. Like no one wants to go to a hospital these days and wait. Yeah. And like, it's like, we're keeping people out of them. It's amazing. Just getting them a little bit stronger. Like that's it. It's very simple. And the second question, which I forgot, sorry, what was it?
It was just like, what kind of continuing education program, if you had like,
right.
unlimited, not you, but like the Adelaide Club, what would be like the ideal program that you think would like really level up your trainer's knowledge? What would it cover?
I think it would be very holistic. So I think also it would be, and I don't know, I think I'm answering this correctly. So definitely there would be an exercise portion that they continue to do. There would be some professional development that would apply to that. I think, outside of that, it would include, I don't want to say like work with a naturopath. Is this answering the question? I don't even know if that's answering the question correctly.
Keep going. Let's pull on this thread.
I'm just going to push. But working, because I like to look at it more from a holistic perspective. So whether that's also like my client needs to work with a psychotherapist because they're under stress. They need to work with a naturopath because, they've got these leg cramps that are not going away. Like a little more working with other practitioners to take care of the whole person, I think would be super ideal. And, actually that's something that we are working on rolling out at the club right now. It's just challenging to sort of connect everyone, but I think that would be a big piece, just continuing, like we said, continuing to give care and show your excellence and referrals, and all for the betterment of the client. And I don't know if that answers your question quite specifically.
I mean, I think you put your finger on something really important, which is like trainers being able to know where does their scope end. And then also having a trusted referral network to who you can refer and then also collaborate with, because usually, for instance, if you're working with a physiotherapist or a chiropractor or osteo, what have you, there are things that can be done or avoided in a training setting to potentiate the work that the other clinician is doing and vice versa. So absolutely. I think you put your finger on something really, really important that not enough trainers are really intentional about. So I think that's really a great answer.
Yeah, I definitely think having that physio that you know and trust, it's an easy, connection, and it only benefits the client. They're able to get, they're having this knee thing, you can't quite figure it out. You send it to them. It's the client is better for it, and they continue to train with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, take us away for rapid fire, my friend.
Oh, goodness.
Buckle up, Lauren.
Right, no stress. So this is something that we run through at the end of any of our podcasts with any first timer.
Okay.
So it's a series of, I think we have 10 questions, 9 questions. First thing that pops on the top of your head just gives people an opportunity to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
All right. So first question is, what is your favorite book, movie, and concert?
Ooh, okay. The concert that I've been to?
Yeah.
Shania Twain. I'm
Nice.
a country girl. I'm a country lover. My favorite movie is probably Center Stage. It's really old, but it's a dance movie. And if you haven't seen it, it's amazing. It's like,
I haven't.
Oh, it's so good.
You said Center Stage?
Center Stage.
Great. Noted.
It's really like a cheesy, 90s movie, but it's amazing. Favorite book? Ooh, that is a tough one. I haven't read in a while, to be honest. I'm trying to read more. Okay, I'm reading one now, but it's taking me long to get through. But my favorite book, you know what? It's, again, very old and kind of like a fluff book, but it's called Confessions of a Shopaholic.
That I'm familiar with.
Okay, yeah. And it was also a movie, but it's just like a fluffy kind of fun book that I read a long time ago.
Cool.
Your favorite and least favorite food?
Favorite food? Ooh, that would be a toss-up between sushi or a burger. And least favorite food? I'm a big foodie, so I love a lot, but I don't like grapefruit.
Okay.
So anything with grapefruit now.
Your proudest moment outside of business?
Ooh, proudest moment. You know what? I ran my first marathon. I qualified for Boston, so that was pretty fun.
Damn.
Yeah, that was probably a proud moment for myself.
That's mega.
Your favorite athlete growing up?
Ooh, probably. That's a good question. Probably like Bailey in the track world, maybe.
Donovan Bailey?
Yeah, Donovan Bailey. Yeah, probably.
Okay, good answer.
Track world. Yep.
Cool.
What 3 values guide you?
Oh gosh, these are hard questions. What 3 values guide me? I think kindness. I think just always remembering to be kind. There's moments where we can, get kind of anxious or whatever. It's just like kindness. I think, and probably being true to yourself. I think just kind of, I don't know if that's the word, yeah, I guess. So just, be true to yourself. And I think curiosity is another one that we sort of touched on already. You do it.
I knew it. I knew that was coming.
Your favorite and least favorite lift?
Ooh. Probably my favorite would be front squat. Least favorite, I really used to hate pull-ups, but now I'm one with the pull-ups now, so I'm okay. Least favorite. Probably a bench press. I'm not that super strong at bench press, but probably that.
One misconception about you?
I think people might think that I'm super confident, and really, I think we all struggle with like the imposter syndrome sometimes. And so I am a huge overthinker. And I don't tend to show it, but definitely am.
City or country that you would love to visit?
You know what? I've never been to Italy. I've been a lot of places in Europe, but I've never been to Italy. Would love to go there.
That's on my list too.
Yeah.
All right. And our final question is, what is one hard truth that personal trainers who are trying to grow their businesses need to hear?
I think you do have to get a little bit uncomfortable in terms of putting yourself out there. Sales are not just going to come to you. Unfortunately, we would love it if they did, but you need to kind of put yourself in positions that are going to give you the best opportunity to make those connections, make those relationships, and then ultimately make those sales.
I love that. I was going to have another question and slide that in there at the end to steal Ryan's thunder, but I won't do that because I think that was a really fantastic answer and a really great place to close. Lauren, thank you very much for your time today. You did great, by the way. First podcast in the books. You crushed it. Okay. Great job.
You guys were great. You
we did okay.
The questions, so thank you so much.
Thank you. I mean, it's easy when we're interviewing someone like you.
Thank you.
When it comes to those that are listening, if someone's interested in perhaps either learning more about you, but perhaps, or even if they're interested in learning more about what a career could look like at the Adelaide Club, how could they go about doing that?
Sure. I mean, they could visit our website at adelaideclub.com. I believe my email's on there, but if not, it's just Lauren, Lauren, at adelaideclub.com. They can also find us on Instagram and message us that way. So lots of ways to get in touch.
Fantastic. Well, we'll make sure we add your email to the show notes if that's okay with you. That way, it'll just kind of facilitate that connection for those that are interested. Absolutely. Ryan, is there anything else that you'd like to say or ask before we close today?
No, just it was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you.
I know ET and I both have fond memories of the Adelaide Club from years ago.
That's great.
So I know we're both excited to visit again sometime soon.
Absolutely. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you. And once again, thank you so much for today. It was really great getting to know you better as a person, and then also the Adelaide Club as a company. And of course, I mean, there's no surprise. There's such great synergies between you yourself, as an individual, and also the company of the Adelaide Club. And so it's just really great spending time with you today. So thanks again.
Well, appreciate me. Thank you so much. I appreciate being on here.